Have you ever wondered what it feels like to save someone's life only to discover years later that they were meant to save yours? Have you ever felt that unbearable loneliness when the world tells you you're too different, too strange, too broken to belong anywhere? That aching emptiness when you realize no one truly sees you for who you are. Tonight I want to share a story about a boy who made one choice on a frozen winter night. A choice that seemed small and insignificant at the time, but would echo across the years in ways he could never imagine. This is a story about the kind of connection that transcends everything we think we know about belonging, about love, and about the courage it takes to trust again after you've been abandoned by everyone. If you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever been the one left out in the cold, this story is for you. Before we begin, I want to invite you to be part of this community. We share stories here that matter, stories about hope and connection, and the moments that change us forever. If that resonates with you, consider subscribing so you never miss another story like this one. And I'd love to know, where are you watching from tonight? Drop a comment below and tell me your city or country. It means the world to know you're here, listening, connecting with these stories. We read every single comment, and your presence here makes this community what it is. Now let's begin. The snow fell in thick sheets across Millbrook, a small mountain town where everyone knew everyone, and strangers were noticed immediately. It was the kind of place where people looked out for their own, but rarely extended that courtesy to outsiders. On this particular December night, the temperature had dropped to -15 degrees, and the streets were empty except for one 13-year-old boy trudging home from the library. His name was Daniel Carter, and he was used to being alone. At school, he was the quiet kid, the one who sat in the back of the class and never raised his hand, the one who ate lunch by himself and spent recess in the library. His parents worked long hours at the hospital, both of them nurses on opposite shifts, which meant Daniel spent most of his time in an empty house with only books and his imagination for company. He didn't mind the solitude. In fact, he preferred it. People were complicated and exhausting. Books made sense. Books had rules and structures and endings that felt earned. He was thinking about the science fiction novel he'd just finished when he saw her. At first, he thought it was a pile of discarded clothes someone had left on the bench at the edge of Morrison Park. But as he got closer, he realized it was a person. A girl, maybe his age, maybe younger. Her skin had a strange pallor to it, almost bluish in the dim streetlight, and her hair was matted with ice crystals. She wore only a thin dress, completely inappropriate for the weather, and her bare feet were tucked beneath her in a desperate attempt to conserve warmth. She was shivering so violently that the entire bench seemed to shake. Daniel stopped, his heart pounding. His first instinct was to keep walking. That's what everyone in town would do. That's what he'd been taught. Don't get involved. Don't invite trouble, mind your own business. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the way her eyes were half closed, the resigned acceptance of someone who had given up. Maybe it was because he knew what it felt like to be invisible, to sit alone and hope someone would notice you were there. Whatever the reason, he couldn't leave her. He approached slowly, his boots crunching in the snow. "Hey," he said softly. "Are you okay?" The girl's eyes opened and Daniel felt his breath catch. Her eyes were violet, not blue or gray, but a deep, vivid purple that seemed to glow faintly in the darkness. She looked at him with a mixture of fear and confusion, as if she couldn't quite believe he was real. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Don't tell them you saw me." Daniel knelt beside the bench, ignoring the cold seeping through his jeans. Who am I not supposed to tell?" "Anyone," she said, her teeth chattering so hard she could barely speak. "They'll take me back and I can't go back." Daniel didn't understand, but he knew one thing for certain. If he left her here, she would die. He shrugged off his coat, the cold hitting him like a physical blow, and draped it over her shoulders. "Come on," he said. "You can't stay out here. My house isn't far." She stared at him as if he'd offered her the impossible. "Why would you help me?" "Because you need help," Daniel said simply. "Isn't that enough?" For a moment she didn't move. Then slowly, painfully, she stood. Her legs nearly gave out, and Daniel had to catch her, wrapping his arm around her waist to support her weight. Together they stumbled through the snow toward his house. Daniel's house was small but warm, and the moment they stepped inside, the girl seemed to collapse. He helped her to the couch, wrapping her in every blanket he could find. He made hot tea, the way his mother always did when he was sick, with honey and lemon. The girl held the mug but didn't drink, staring into the steam as if it held answers to questions she couldn't voice. "What's your name?" Daniel asked, sitting across from her in his father's armchair. "Zara," she said quietly. "That's a pretty name. Where are you from?" She looked at him, those violet eyes piercing and ancient despite her young face. "Somewhere very far away." Are you lost? Do you need me to call someone? Your parents, maybe? Her expression darkened. I don't have parents anymore. I don't have anyone. Daniel felt a pang of recognition. He might have parents, but they were never around. He knew what it felt like to be alone even when you weren't supposed to be. You have me now, he said. At least for tonight. Zara's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away. You don't understand. I'm not like you. I noticed, Daniel said, gesturing to her eyes. Are you wearing contacts? No, she said. This is just how I am. I'm not human. Daniel should have been afraid. He should have run or called the police or done any number of sensible things. But instead, he leaned forward, his curiosity overriding his caution. What are you? I'm Nalari, she said. My people came here looking for refuge, but your world doesn't want us. They put us in camps, they experiment on us, they treat us like animals. I escaped 3 days ago, and I've been running ever since. Daniel's mind raced. He'd heard rumors, whispers at school about government facilities in the mountains, about strange lights in the sky, about aliens. He'd always dismissed them as conspiracy theories, but now, sitting across from this girl with impossible eyes and a story that sounded like something out of his science fiction novels, he wasn't so sure. Are they looking for you? He asked. Yes, Zara said. And when they find me, they'll kill me. Not because I'm dangerous, but because I know too much. About what? About what they're really doing to my people. About the experiments, the dissections, the lies they tell the public. Daniel felt anger rise in his chest, hot and fierce. That's not right. None of that is right. I know, Zara said. But what can I do? I'm just one person. One alien. No one will listen to me. I'll listen, Daniel said. And I'll help you. Why? The same question she'd asked in the park. Why would you do this for me? Because it's the right thing to do, Daniel said. And because you deserve better than what they've given you. For the first time, Zara smiled. It was small and fragile, but it transformed her entire face. Thank you, she whispered. Daniel nodded. You can stay here tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out what to do next. But as they sat there in the quiet warmth of his living room, neither of them realized that this was just the beginning. That the choice Daniel had made tonight would ripple forward through time, connecting them in ways that would challenge everything they thought they knew about sacrifice, survival, and the bonds that tie us together across impossible distances. Does that moment resonate with you? That feeling when you reach out to help someone even when the world tells you not to, even when it seems impossible? Have you ever made a choice like that? A choice that felt small but changed everything? I'd love to hear your story. Leave a comment below and tell me about a time you helped someone who needed it. Or maybe a time someone helped you when you felt invisible. Type, I understand that pain, so others who read your comment know they're not alone. Your words matter here. Your experience matters. And by sharing it, you might be the light someone else needs tonight. Zara stayed for 3 days. Daniel told his parents she was a friend from school whose family was going through a rough time. They were too exhausted from their shifts to ask many questions, and Daniel was careful to keep Zara hidden when they were home. He brought her food, clothes, books. He taught her how to navigate human technology, how to use the internet without being tracked, how to blend in. And in return, she told him about her world. The Nalari had been an advanced civilization, she explained, living on a planet called Thessar in a distant star system. But their sun had begun to collapse, and they'd had no choice but to flee. Earth had seemed like salvation, a world rich with resources and potential allies. But instead of welcome, they'd found fear and violence. We just wanted a chance, Zara said one night as they sat on the floor of Daniel's room, a pile of books scattered between them, a chance to live, to rebuild, to exist. But humans saw us as threats, as invaders. They locked us away and started experimenting, trying to understand our biology so they could weaponize it. That's insane, Daniel said. Not everyone thinks that way. Maybe not everyone, Zara said, but enough do. Enough to make the laws, to build the camps, to decide that we're not worth saving. Daniel wanted to argue, to defend humanity, but he couldn't. He'd seen the news reports, the politicians calling for stricter alien control, the protesters demanding deportation even though the Nalari had nowhere to go. He'd seen the fear in people's eyes when they talked about the aliens among them, and he knew that fear made people cruel. On the 4th day, everything changed. Daniel came home from school to find his house surrounded by black vehicles. Men in tactical gear were stationed at every door, and a woman in a gray suit stood on his front porch talking to his panicked parents. Daniel's blood turned to ice. He started to back away, but one of the men spotted him. Daniel Carter, the man called out. "We need to speak with you." Daniel ran. He didn't think, didn't plan, just turned and sprinted into the woods behind his house. He could hear shouts behind him, footsteps pounding through the snow, but he didn't stop. He ran until his lungs burned, until his legs felt like they would collapse, until he reached the old hunting cabin his grandfather had built years ago. He burst through the door and found Zara waiting inside. She must have escaped before they arrived. Must have known they were coming. "How?" Daniel gasped, trying to catch his breath. "I heard their communications," Zara said. "My people can perceive certain frequencies humans can't. I knew they'd traced me here, so I ran. I'm sorry, Daniel. I never meant to put you in danger." "It's not your fault," Daniel said. "But we can't stay here. They'll find us." "I know," Zara said. "That's why I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you from the beginning." She took a deep breath, her violet eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I'm not just a refugee, Daniel. I'm a carrier." "A carrier of what?" "Information," Zara said. "Before my world fell, our scientists discovered something. A signal coming from deep space, beyond anything we'd ever encountered. It contained knowledge, technology, things that could change everything. They encrypted it, hid it in the genetic code of certain individuals so it couldn't be stolen or destroyed. I'm one of those carriers. That's why they want you," Daniel said, understanding dawning. "That's why they're so desperate to find you." "Yes," Zara said. "And if they catch me, they'll extract the information no matter what it costs. Even if it kills me." Daniel felt rage and helplessness warring inside him. "We have to get you out of here. Out of the country. Off the planet if we have to." Zara shook her head. "There's nowhere to run, Daniel. They have resources, technology, reach. They'll find me eventually. Then we fight," Daniel said. "We expose them. We tell everyone what they're doing. No one will listen to a 13-year-old boy and an illegal alien." "Maybe not," Daniel said. "But we have to try. Because if we don't, if we just give up, then they win. And I'm not letting them win." Zara looked at him, really looked at him, and something shifted in her expression. "You're the bravest person I've ever met," she said softly. "I'm not brave," Daniel said. "I'm terrified. But I'm more terrified of losing you." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning neither of them fully understood yet. But before either could speak, the sound of engines roared outside. They'd been found. Daniel grabbed Zara's hand. "Come on, there's a tunnel under the cabin. My grandfather built it during the Cold War. It leads to the main road." They ran, but this time they weren't fast enough. The door exploded inward, and armed men poured into the cabin. Daniel and Zara were separated, pulled apart despite their struggles. Daniel watched helplessly as they restrained Zara, her violet eyes locked on his. "I won't forget you," she shouted as they dragged her toward the door. "I promise, Daniel. I won't forget." And then she was gone. Daniel was questioned for hours. They wanted to know everything, what Zara had told him, what he knew about the Nalari, whether he'd been in contact with any resistance groups. He told them nothing. Even when they threatened him, even when they said his parents would lose their jobs, even when they said he'd be arrested. He stayed silent. Eventually they let him go with a warning. "Stay away from the aliens," they said. "Forget you ever met her." But Daniel couldn't forget. He spent the next 5 years searching for any trace of Zara. He taught himself computer programming, hacking, everything he needed to break into government databases. He became obsessed, his entire life revolving around finding her. His parents worried. His grades suffered. He had no friends, no social life, nothing but the mission. And then, on the night of his 18th birthday, she came back. Daniel was in his room, hunched over his laptop, when he heard a tap on his window. He looked up and his heart stopped. Zara stood outside, older now, her features sharper, her eyes still that impossible violet. But she was alive. He threw open the window and she climbed inside, moving with a grace she hadn't possessed as a frightened 13-year-old. "Daniel," she breathed. "You're here," he said, his voice breaking. "You're really here." "I told you I wouldn't forget," Zara said. "And I came back because I need your help." "Anything," Daniel said. "What do you need?" "I need you to help me save my people," Zara said. "And I need you to help me stop a war." She pulled out a small device, holographic images flickering to life above it. "The signal I carry," she said. "It's not just information. It's a weapon. A weapon that could destroy entire civilizations. And the people who took me, they've been trying to extract it for years. They finally succeeded." Daniel's blood ran cold. "When?" 3 days ago, Zara said. "Which means we have 72 hours before they activate it. And when they do, it won't just destroy the Nalari. It'll destabilize this entire region of space. Billions will die. How do we stop it? Daniel asked. Zara looked at him, and in her eyes he saw the weight of 5 years of suffering, of experimentation, of survival against impossible odds. We break into the facility where they're holding my people, she said. We destroy the weapon, and we expose everything they've done. It's a suicide mission, Daniel said. Probably, Zara agreed. But I can't do it alone. And I trust you more than anyone in this world. Daniel didn't hesitate. When do we leave? Zara smiled, and in that smile he saw the girl he'd found in the snow 5 years ago. The girl he'd never stopped thinking about. Tonight, she said. We leave tonight. And so began the most dangerous 72 hours of their lives. A mission that would test everything they believed about courage, sacrifice, and the lengths we go to protect the people we love. The facility was buried deep in the mountains, a sprawling complex hidden beneath layers of rock and security. Daniel and Zara approached at midnight, using routes Zara had memorized during her captivity. The night was cold, reminding Daniel of that first night they'd met. But this time they weren't running. This time they were fighting back. They moved through the shadows, avoiding patrols and cameras. Zara had retained fragments of the encrypted knowledge in her DNA, including advanced understanding of security systems. She guided them past laser grids and biometric scanners, her fingers dancing over control panels with practiced ease. Inside, the facility was sterile and cold. They passed holding cells filled with Nalari prisoners, their violet eyes following Daniel and Zara with a mixture of hope and desperation. We're coming back for you, Zara whispered to them. I promise. The weapon was housed in the central lab, a massive room filled with equipment Daniel barely understood. At its center sat a crystalline structure pulsing with energy. That's it, Zara said. That's the extracted signal. If we destroy it, we destroy their weapon. But we also destroy the knowledge my people spent centuries accumulating. Daniel looked at her. Is there another way? No, Zara said. This is the only way to ensure they can never use it. Then we destroy it, Daniel said. He reached for the explosives they'd brought, but before he could place them, alarms shrieked through the facility. Red lights bathed everything in crimson. They'd been discovered. Run! Daniel shouted. But Zara grabbed his arm. No, she said. You run. I'm staying. What? No, I can't leave you here. You have to, Zara said. Someone needs to manually overload the containment field. It requires a Nalari biometric signature. If I don't do it, the weapon survives. Daniel felt tears burning his eyes. There has to be another way. There isn't, Zara said gently. And Daniel, these past 5 years, even when they had me locked away, even when I thought I'd never see daylight again, I held on to one memory. You. That night in the snow, when you saw me not as a threat but as someone worth saving. You gave me hope when I had none. You gave me a reason to keep fighting. I can't lose you again, Daniel said, his voice breaking. You won't, Zara said, because I'll always be with you. In every choice you make to help someone who needs it, in every moment you choose compassion over fear. That's where I'll be. She kissed him then, soft and brief, and filled with everything they'd never had time to say. Then she pushed him toward the door. Go, she said. Tell the world what happened here. Make sure my people are free. Daniel ran, tears streaming down his face, his heart shattering with every step. Behind him he heard the containment field beginning to overload, heard Zara's voice one last time over the facility's communication system. She was broadcasting everything, all the evidence of the experiments, the torture, the lies. She was making sure the truth would survive even if she didn't. Daniel made it outside just as the facility exploded, a pillar of light shooting into the sky. He collapsed in the snow, his body racked with sobs, clutching the small recording device Zara had given him containing everything they'd discovered. The explosion was seen for miles. Within hours, news crews arrived. Daniel told them everything, showed them the evidence, and the world listened. The revelation sparked outrage, protests, political upheaval. The camps were shut down. The Nalari were granted asylum and reparations. Laws were changed. And through it all, Daniel became the voice for those who couldn't speak, dedicating his life to ensuring that what happened to Zara and her people would never happen again. Years later, on the anniversary of that night, Daniel stood in Morrison Park where he'd first found her. Snow fell softly around him, and he placed a memorial stone on the bench. On it was carved a simple message. For Zara, who taught me that the smallest act of kindness can change everything. He stood there in the cold, remembering violet eyes and a girl who'd trusted him when trust should have been impossible. And though she was gone, he knew she'd been right. She was still with him in every life he touched, in every person he helped, in every moment he chose to see someone who needed saving. Because sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is extend our hand to someone the world has forgotten. Sometimes one act of compassion is enough to start a revolution. And sometimes the people we save end up saving us right back in ways we never expected.